Stoic philosophers on women, emotions, and the mind. Lessons for today's world introduction. Welcome back to our philosophy channel, where we unpack ancient wisdom and connect it to the challenges and triumphs of modern life. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and complex topic. What did Stoic philosophers say about women? Why were women sometimes portrayed as a devil in ancient thought? How did Stoics view women's emotions and feelings? And how do these ideas stack up against what we now know about the human brain, male and female alike? We'll explore these questions through the lens of Stoicism, a philosophy that surged in popularity today, and project its insights into our daily lives with real-world examples. From workplace stress to social media pressures, we'll see how Stoic ideas about gender and emotion resonate in 2025. This is a deep dive, so grab a coffee, and let's get started. The Stoic worldview, reason, virtue, and a patriarchal lens. Stoicism, born in Athens around 300 BCE under Zeno of Citium, is a philosophy of resilience. It teaches that the path to a good life lies in living according to nature, cultivating virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, and mastering emotions through reason. Figures like Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Musonius Rufus shaped Stoicism into a practical guide for navigating life's challenges, but they lived in a Greco-Roman world where men held power, and women were often confined to roles like wife, mother, or daughter, with limited access to public life. In this patriarchal context, Stoic views on women were a mixed bag. On one hand, Stoics believed that all humans, regardless of status or gender, could achieve virtue through reason. On the other, their writings often reflected cultural biases that portrayed women as less rational or more emotional. While Stoics didn't explicitly call women devils, their emphasis on controlling passion fed into stereotypes that later fueled such metaphors in Christian theology. Let's unpack their views and see how they translate to our lives today. Perspectives on women, virtue, and cultural bias. Stoicism's core principle is that virtue is universal. Musonius Rufus, a 1st-century Stoic, was a standout here. In his lecture that women too should study philosophy, he argued, women have the same rational faculty as men, bestowed by the gods. Philosophy is not only suitable for women, but essential for their flourishing. This was radical for a time when women were rarely educated beyond domestic skills. Musonius even suggested that women could excel in virtues like courage, citing examples of women who managed households with wisdom or faced adversity with Stoic resolve. But not all Stoics were as progressive. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, often praised women who defied stereotypes, like his mother, Helvia, whom he lauded for her restraint and grief, but his praise implied that emotional excess was a feminine norm to overcome. In consolation to Marcia, Seneca commends Marcia for controlling her sorrow after her son's death, saying, "You have surpassed the weakness of your sex." This reveals a common assumption. Women were naturally more prone to pathos, destructive passions, and their path to virtue required extra effort to align with reason. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, rarely mentions women directly but frequently warns against being swayed by irrational desires or external temptations. In the Greco-Roman imagination, women were often linked to beauty or passion qualities that could derail a Stoic's focus. For example, in Book 3 he writes, "Do not be carried away by impressions, remain master of yourself." While not explicitly about women, such passages were interpreted in a gendered way, as women were culturally seen as embodiments of temptation. Modern projection, gender, stereotypes. In 2025, these Stoic assumptions echo in today's world, where gender stereotypes persist despite progress. Consider the workplace. Women in leadership roles, like a female CEO navigating a corporate crisis, are often judged more harshly for emotional displays than men. If she raises her voice in a meeting, she's hysterical. If a male counterpart does the same, he's passionate. This double standard mirrors Seneca's implication that women must overcome an inherent emotional weakness to prove their rationality. Or take social media in 2025. Platforms like X amplify gendered expectations. Women influencers are often pressured to project warmth or vulnerability to gain followers, while men are rewarded for confidence or stoicism. A woman posting about mental health struggles might be praised for authenticity but also labeled as overly emotional, while a man doing the same is seen as brave. Stoicism's call to master emotions can inspire us to challenge these biases, encouraging both men and women to express feelings authentically without judgment. The devil metaphor, origins and misunderstandings. The idea that Stoics called women devils is a misinterpretation, but it has roots in their broader philosophy. Stoics warned against external temptations that disrupt rational self-control. Epictetus, in his Discourses Book 2.18, advises, "Be not swept off your feet by the vividness of an impression. Give yourself time to reflect." While he doesn't mention women, the cultural context often framed women as sources of desire or distraction. Think of sirens in Greek mythology or Delilah in biblical stories. This Stoic suspicion of passion laid the groundwork for later traditions. Early Christian thinkers, influenced by Stoicism and Platonism, amplified these ideas. The story of Eve, portrayed as succumbing to temptation and leading Adam astray, crystallized the woman as devil metaphor. By the medieval period, women were often depicted as temptresses who endangered men's souls, a far cry from Rousseau's egalitarian vision but fueled by Stoic warnings against irrationality, modern projection, temptation, and control. Today in 2025, the devil metaphor manifests in subtler ways. Consider dating apps, where algorithms and profiles reduce people to impressions that can sweep us off our feet. As Epictetus warned, a woman might be judged solely on her appearance, reinforcing the ancient stereotype of women as sources of temptation. Stoicism's advice to pause and reflect can help us navigate these shallow judgments. For example, before swiping right based on a profile photo, a Stoic might ask, "Am I reacting to an impression, or do I value this person's character?" This applies to both men and women, encouraging us to prioritize virtue over fleeting attraction. Another example is advertising. In 2025, ads often use gendered imagery, women as alluring figures in perfume commercials, men as Stoic heroes in car ads. Stoicism teaches us to question these impressions and focus on what we control, our judgments and actions. By applying Stoic principles, we can resist manipulative marketing and build relationships based on mutual respect, not stereotypes. Women's emotions in Stoic thoughts. Stoics divided emotions into two categories: pathos, destructive passions like anger, fear, or lust, and eupathia, rational emotions like joy or goodwill. The goal was to eliminate pathos through correct judgments and cultivate eupathia. Women, however, were often stereotyped as more susceptible to pathos. Seneca, in On Anger, notes that women are prone to excessive grief or unrestrained tears, urging them to adopt rational control. This wasn't a direct attack, but a reflection of cultural norms that viewed women's emotions as more intense or volatile. Epictetus took a harsher tone at times. In Discourses Book 3.24, he warns against being ruled by emotions, using examples like mourning or longing, which were culturally associated with women. Yet, Musonius Rufus again offers balance, arguing that women could master their emotions just as men could. In On the Purpose of Marriage, he describes marriage as a partnership of equals, where both spouses cultivate virtue and emotional resilience together. Modern projection, emotions in everyday life today. We see echoes of these Stoic views in how society judges emotional expression. Imagine a single mother in 2025, juggling work and parenting while facing financial stress. If she breaks down in tears, society might label her overwhelmed or fragile, echoing Seneca's assumptions about feminine grief. But Stoicism reminds us that emotions aren't weaknesses, they're signals. This mother could use Stoic techniques, like reframing her stress as a challenge within her control, to find resilience. For example, she might focus on what she can do today, budgeting, seeking support, rather than dwelling on what she can't control. Like rising costs. Men face similar pressures. A man who suppresses his emotions to appear stoic at work, say, hiding anxiety during a high-stakes presentation, might internalize stress, leading to burnout. Stoicism doesn't advocate suppressing emotions, but understanding them. By applying Epictetus's advice to examine impressions, he could acknowledge his anxiety, reframe it as a natural response, and focus on delivering his best. In schools, too, Stoic principles can help. Teen girls in 2025 often face pressure to be perfect on social media, leading to anxiety or self-doubt. Stoic practices, like journaling inspired by Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, can help them question external judgments and build self-worth based on virtue. Similarly, teen boys might feel pressured to hide vulnerability to seem tough. Stoicism encourages them to embrace rational emotions like compassion, fostering healthier relationships. Male and female brains. what science says in 2025. The Stoics lacked modern neuroscience, but their focus on reason and emotion invites comparison with today's findings. Are women's brains inherently more emotional, as some Stoics assumed? Let's explore. Brain structure and function. Male and female brains are remarkably similar, but subtle differences exist, shaped by genetics, hormones, and environment. Size and structure. Male brains are about 10% larger on average, due to body size, but this doesn't affect cognitive ability. The corpus callosum, which connects the brain's hemispheres, is slightly larger in women, potentially enhancing communication between emotional and analytical regions. Hormonal effects. Estrogen, higher in women, boosts activity in the amygdala, which processes emotions like fear or empathy. This may make women, on average, more attuned to emotional cues, like a friend's distress. Testosterone, higher in men, amplifies amygdala responses to aggression or competition, like reacting to a rival's challenge. Prefrontal cortex. Women show slightly higher activity in the prefrontal cortex, which governs planning and impulse control. This challenges the Stoic view of women as less rational, as this region is key to reasoned decision-making. Neuroplasticity. Both genders' brains adapt to experience. A woman who practices Stoic mindfulness might strengthen her prefrontal cortex, just as a man who meditates can enhance emotional regulation. Emotional processing. Men and women experience emotions at similar intensities, but expression varies due to socialization. Women are often encouraged to express sadness or empathy, while men are pushed toward anger or stoicism. In 2025, studies show women may process emotions faster due to stronger amygdala-prefrontal connections, but this doesn't mean they're less capable of control. For example, a woman negotiating a salary might feel anger but use her prefrontal cortex to stay calm and strategic. Pure Stoic virtue. Cognitive abilities. There's no evidence that women are less rational, as some Stoics implied. Verbal tasks, for example, writing or communication, often show slight female advantages, while spatial tasks, for example, navigation, show minor male advantages. These are averages, not absolutes. Both genders excel in problem-solving, memory, and creativity, aligning with the Stoic belief that reason is universal. Modern projection. Neuroscience meets Stoicism in 2025. Stoicism's call to master emotions aligns with cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), which both men and women use to reframe negative thoughts. Take a software developer facing a tight deadline. She might feel overwhelmed, but Stoic practices like focusing on what's in her control, writing code versus what's not, client expectations can reduce stress. Her male colleague, facing the same deadline, might hide his frustration to seem professional. Stoicism encourages both to acknowledge emotions without being ruled by them, using reason to stay focused. Or consider parenting. A mother comforting her child after a school conflict might draw on her amygdala's sensitivity to empathize, while a father might focus on teaching problem-solving. Both approaches reflect Stoic virtues, compassion, and wisdom, and show that emotional differences enhance, not hinder, rational living. Bridging Stoicism and modern life. The Stoics were shaped by their time, but their core insights that virtue is achievable through reason transcends gender. Musonius Rufus's progressive views hint at a Stoicism free from patriarchal bias. Today, we can apply Stoic principles to challenge stereotypes and embrace our shared humanity. Whether it's a woman navigating workplace bias, a man confronting emotional stigma, or a teen resisting social media pressures, Stoicism offers tools to live with clarity and resilience. Neuroscience confirms that men and women have equal potential for rational virtue. The Stoic call to live according to nature now means recognizing that emotions, whether shaped by biology or culture, are part of our humanity. By mastering our judgments, we can all cultivate the Stoic ideals of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Conclusion. As we close, let's reflect on the Stoic legacy. Their views on women were imperfect, colored by a patriarchal world, but their philosophy offers timeless wisdom. In 2025, we face new challenges: workplace pressures, digital noise, gendered expectations, but Stoicism equips us to rise above. By combining ancient insights with modern science, we see that men and women alike can live virtuously, mastering emotions through reason. Thanks for joining this philosophical journey. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. How do you apply Stoic principles in your life? Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, stay resilient, and keep philosophizing.